All right, Fabric Tip Friday again. It's actually just the same as last week. I was doing the one on the inspection rings adding, and since I had this here, I have a wing next door. It's another company's product that we're recovering, and I really didn't want to. I was going to do one on using it because it had some tapes come loose, but the surface was brittle and it wasn't going to do just right, so I figured I could just replicate it here. What I'm going to do is talk about when someone has a tape that has come loose. When a tape has come loose, I don't care what you say, they just did not have enough glue. That's just all it is to it. I kind of just glued this down to the surface, and this is the area that I did not glue. Now, sometimes what causes this, when you're covering an airplane with AirTech or I guess any other product, I want to take an iron at the very end and I want to get the roughness of these, even though they're glued, you see that line. I always tell people we want to glue all the way to the end of the line and not past it. You're going to take an iron, and it's just amazing by doing that on the tip how smooth that is. The AirTech primer will seal right over that and just bridge right across it. You'll see the tips of the pinking tape. Everything will be defined, but people will get to going in a rush, and next thing you know, they're taking an iron and they're doing this. And what happens is they'll come across here and do enough heat to it that it'll shrink this lighter weight tape, or even if it's heavy, and it'll pull. And what it's doing, it's not going to pull that glue apart if it was over here, but because their iron is right on top of the glue and kind of reactivating it, making it soft and shrinking, they cause this tape to shift just a little bit. And when they do, they have actually broke their seal completely loose, except for what the iron is maybe just sticking back together. A lot of times when one has come loose, your paint line also is completely bridged over this. And when you have a piece of loose tape, you've got a broken piece of paint line there too. So if you've got a lot really coming loose bad, I've seen people just peel the whole tape back off, and you're going to have to glue a new tape down and reprime and everything. But if this has got shiny paint all over the top of it, you're going to see this little repair. But this is sort of just a repair that's not going to just stick out like a sore thumb. What I'll do is normally take a piece of masking tape, and I'll put right to the ends of that. And what I'm doing is protecting the shiny paint up to here, because there's fixing to be a lot of action going right here. And I get that rubbed down real good, and I'm right up to the edge of that. All right, so you've got two things. You'll take you something and just see how bad your problem is. You can see that line, I'm back up to right there. So you see what the problem is there, and you're kind of raising that up so that when it glues down, you may end up having to put just a little bit of heat if you've caused a stretched area. But there's two ways. I'll take a small brush with AirTech in the thin form, and there should be AirTech under this to start with that will reactivate. I don't care if it's 5 years later, but you can take and you can get that brush under there. What I'm doing is just wetting the tape and the bottom, and don't just flood it, but you just want to get enough under there that you're getting the top and the bottom wet. And we're not going to stick it down yet. We're going to let it sit there kind of hollow. Another way, take your knife, take a piece of wood or something, and shave off you a little sliver of wood and put it in the glue. And if it's a real small area that's smaller than a brush, you can take a little sliver of something and dip it in the glue, and you're going to wipe it down on the wing. You're going to wipe it up toward the top of the tape. And what you're doing is kind of priming both sides. With that being held up, you're letting air to it, and actually it will completely dry. And you could take an iron and probably stick those two together and activate. But what I normally do is I let those two layers of glue be like my priming pass when I'm putting down tapes, and it dries its first time. And then you can come back. Now this is wet. I didn't give it enough time to dry. But you usually wet one side and then work your glue down, work everything out on it. Now you got a broke line of paint there that's going to show. It's just the way it's going to be. And if you go heating very much, you can cause that to shrink over, and then you've got a white line under it. But if you can get it down pretty good, and you can go ahead and let that dry. One good thing about Airtech glue, once it dries, you're not being in a hurry to wipe anything off or anything like that. You can go ahead and let it dry and come back with some acetone and it will reactivate, or you can do it when it's kind of wet. Take a little bit of acetone. Don't use MEK because that's a little worse for you getting in your skin, but acetone's fairly safe. I just take a paper towel, kind of smooth that, excess glue that you had out all top of this, and you get it all the way down. And if you have a rough edge there, you can take an iron, maybe get those down. Once you get that done, pull your tape off. Everything's smooth. You haven't got a bunch of glue lines or acetone or smeared marks out here. And after it dries, if it's still a little rough there, you can take an iron and just flatten those down. And if you have created a little line, get you a little, if it's the same color, a spot paint or something from the auto store or something with a Q-tip, just to take your mind away from that if you have a little white edge there. That's just one way of kind of fixing an area if it's just a small area that's came up, getting the glue under it and getting it down. If the tape is 5, 6, 10 years old, it could be trying to get a little brittle in places. Doesn't matter what system it is, you're gluing it back down. Just, by doing it this way, you can, guard your paint out here and get everything back down and have it all pretty level. Thank you.